All right now. Moment of silence.
Let's just sit here for a minute.
I don't even know how to start the show.
Just
okay. I I'm just gonna say.
So who wants to start it off? So I'm Teddy Bridgewater, and who
excuse me. Hello, hey Charlotte, how's it going? Hey fans, hello Charlotte, 704. Raquel Gaston and whoever wants to watch today. I am the angriest black fan, Jamal Darby. Much like the Panthers, we are struggling to find ourselves here under construction today. To my immediate left is Kaza Sose. What's going on, man? I say no more. To my far left is Rodney Rob Pops Richardson. How you doing, brother?
Present.
Yeah. Present, unlike the Panthers defense most of the first half and Teddy Bridgewater's accuracy most of the first half, we just witnessed the Panthers drop to 0-2 as they lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fellas, where do we start? Who wants to start?
Okay, all right.
Kaza, you got a lot of fire today, man.
You got the fire on you.
You got a lot of fire today, man. We're gonna let you go first, bro.
Getting ready for the show. I was in my zone. If I hear one more person say Teddy Bridgewater is more accurate than Cam Newton, we fighting. We are going to fight physically, fist fight. That is not true. It is not true because I haven't seen it the first 2 games, and I certainly didn't see it today. I'm sorry. So if Cam Newton had performed the way Teddy Bridgewater did today, and the result was the same, we'd be pinning this loss on him. Therefore, it is only fair that we pin this loss on Teddy Bridgewater because Tampa didn't look all that great to start the game, honestly. And I kind of thought, I got fooled. I thought, the Panthers might actually pull this one out and be somewhat competitive. And then the turnovers happened. And the fumble, okay, the offensive line was wishy-washy today. I'll give him that. But the 2 interceptions were pretty inexcusable. We saw a bunch of overthrows, just general terrible accuracy in decision-making from Teddy Bridgewater. And although, people will say, well, the defense didn't play good either. If you keep giving the ball to Tom Brady, what do you expect is going to happen? The defense, they're getting tired. The time of possession battle was a huge discrepancy in time of possession before the end of the first half. The defense just couldn't do anything with Tom Brady. And Tom Brady didn't even look like, to me, all that great. I still think the jury's out on Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, but he was able to do enough to stop us, especially if we just gonna keep giving him the ball back. So, I mean, I really hate to shit on Teddy Bridgewater after today, but I mean, you can't sit here and say, well, he played a good game and it was everybody else around him. I just think it's very telling that when the Panthers did mount a comeback, when the defense said, okay, all right, let's have some pride, and they started getting after Tom Brady. Brian Burns showed up like he was like,
right.
I better start.
Hey guys, I'm still here.
Yeah. So, and then offensively, the Panthers said, okay, you know what? We paid Christian McCaffrey all this money. Let's give him the ball. He suddenly goes off for like 80 yards, and the Panthers scored 2 unanswered touchdowns. When he got injured, now it's up to Teddy Bridgewater to shoulder the offense. And then, as one of our viewers just noted, he throws it behind DJ Moore on a pivotal drive and essentially gives the game away at that point. We score there, we tie it up, and we got a game. And that especially came after a 35-yard reception to Robbie Anderson.
Yep.
You can't do that. You can't throw a 35-yard reception to Robbie Anderson on a pivotal drive and then throw it behind DJ Moore when the other team knows that Christian McCaffrey's not coming back in the game. And it's not like Teddy Bridgewater is like a rookie or anything. I understand this is a new team, but he's really a vet at this point.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we brought him here is because of what we saw him do in New Orleans when Drew Brees was out. Granted, New Orleans has a better defense, better offensive line, arguably better offensive weapons. However, that's not an excuse, because if we want to take it there, Drew Brees was balling all them years when New Orleans had the historically worst defense in the league. Drew Brees is still putting up MVP numbers. Teddy Bridgewater was a game manager. That's what he is going to really have to do here. If he has to do anything more than that, then we get results like today. Also, Matt Rule looks lost out there. What is he? What are we doing?
Listen,
doing fake. What are you doing?
The first half play calling was some of the worst that I've ever witnessed in Panthers history. I know that sounds like maybe it's an overreaction or overly profound, but that is literally some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. There was a third down play where they drew up like, I guess, a drag route for Christian McCaffrey. It's like 3rd and 7, but the route was 3 yards. And Teddy throws it to Christian McCaffrey like at the 3-yard mark and gets tackled. I have drawn up better plays on Madden. I'm not playing, man. There are just some the fake punt, man. The fake run on the punt, man. I'm sorry to interrupt you, man. Go ahead, dude. It was just.
I mean, I don't. I said this in the Panthers Facebook group earlier. Rebuilding is not a shield from criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And when you rebuild, generally you rebuild because there is something.
There's a lack of talent.
Or there's something you can, like, look at the Charlotte Hornets rebuild. People can say whatever they want to say about the Hornets, but there's some bright spots. We got some things to look forward to. We have a young core. Mitch Kupchak seems to be drafting the right guys. There's a little bit to get excited about. When the Panthers rebuilt in 2011, we had Cam Newton to get excited about. The Panthers lost the first 2 games of that rebuild too, but I mean, look at those first 2 games. Cam Newton goes back-to-back 400 yards. There's a lot to get excited about. You knew that, okay, things are going to change. The Panthers are bad right now during this rebuild, but things are going to change. I don't feel like things are going to change with the current regime, at least not in the same time span that we had in 2011.
See, if things keep going the way they're going, they will change, because we will have these guys from South Carolina who wears number 16.
That's right.
Things will change. It'll change for the better, but it's today, man. It's the same thing, man. Like poor offensive line play, poor clock management, poor decisions from our quarterback, our run defense. We can't plug a hole, and it's like we're seeing the same things with this franchise. I'm gonna throw a number out there: 195, 206, and 1. What does that tell you?
That's under 500. If we're talking about a record,
that's the Panthers' all-time record. We are a mediocre franchise, and I got another number for you: 102 and 123.
That's also under 500.
Why do we continue to settle for mediocrity? Whose record is that? Marty Herney.
Wow. Speaking of that, Rodney, I am very glad you brought me to that point. This is a great segue for what I was about to say. The first point I'd like to make, gentlemen, is $60 million is a lot of money for a stopgap quarterback. Wouldn't you agree? That's a lot of money for a stopgap quarterback. I understand the market is a little, it's gone up in recent years. But if we're talking about someone who is a transition quarterback to your next future quarterback and the direction that you ultimately want to be in, that's a lot of money, guys. Number two, look, we try not to overreact when it comes to early season football. We understand that this team didn't really have a preseason. They had limited practices, so on and so on and so on. However, when you get rid of your franchise guy, when you get rid of the guy that is the face of the franchise, you know what I mean? you gotta. What is there a clear direction to this team? This is all we have ever asked when we were going through the Cam Newton saga. And if we're and if we're judging from the first two games, I guess it is a clear direction. It's to tank. The direction goes to Clemson, South Carolina, like Rodney said. That direction leads to Trevor Lawrence.
Or
let me
Columbus,
finish.
Ohio. Or Columbus.
There you go. but let me finish. So, with that being said, and since we are quote unquote in a rebuild, there are some excuses that do not fly even in a rebuild. And play calling is one of those excuses that does not fly when you're in a rebuild. Coaching mistakes do not fly when you're in a rebuild. Boneheaded, stupid plays don't fly when you're in a rebuild. Teddy Bridgewater, his overthrows and his missed passes and his bad decision making, that stuff doesn't fly when you're in a rebuild. I get it. This is a transitional football team, but some of the stuff today, it's just like, okay, where's the direction? What's our clear direction? Because some of the veterans made bad plays today, so I don't get it, guys. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, man, I look at what Jameis Winston got paid and his potential to throw the ball better than Teddy. And I'm like, if you're going to do this mixed bag, what the Hornets were doing before, as far as rebuild and trying to compete, I mean, why not go get Jameis? To me, Jameis has more arm talent. I mean, that's just my opinion, man. I mean, he has some questionable things, but Jameis has a higher upside than Teddy to me. Teddy's a nice guy, but Teddy would be a perfect quarterback, like I said last week, for a place like Chicago. A game manager, doesn't make big mistakes, can rely on a good defense. We're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, right.
We're in a developmental phase. We need to develop the talent. And I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but I mean, why pay CMC $16 million? You're wasting him. Running backs have but so many carries in this league. You're wasting the guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, no.
Go ahead, Kaiser.
No, I was going to say, because we debated that back when it became clear that they were going to have to pay CMC. But at the time, the organization acted like Cam Newton was going to be the guy. So, yeah, if Cam Newton stays, then, Cam CMC, you want that pair up. But then you get rid of Cam, and Jamal brings up a really good point about Bridgewater's contract. I got to think they're all in on Bridgewater. There might be a chance that Trevor Lawrence is not even
in the plans. It's not on the microscope or under the scope. Yeah.
The biggest mistake that Tepper would have made so far if Trevor Lawrence, if they have a chance to get Trevor Lawrence, I'm not saying that they should purposely lose to get him. Yes,
no.
But if he's available and they don't draft him because they say, well, Bridgewater's our guy, that would be a massive, massive mistake. And I gotta hope. But Tepper doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who just wants to waste money.
Yeah.
Why would they pay Teddy Bridgewater $63 million with the idea of, well, we're just gonna keep you around until something better comes along in the draft? That's an interesting thought.
Look, quick question. So we end up with the first pick in the draft next year. What's your face if we draft a left tackle instead of Trevor Lawrence?
I'm gonna go buy a new Patriots jersey.
Look, no, I'm not.
What goes off of it?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Michael's and buy a big cardboard sign, and I'm going to go down to Bank of America and protest. I will be in jail. I will have a mugshot. If I'm done with this team, if they pull off something like that. But guys, I want to get back to the game itself. We will have all season to talk about a bad record and tanking and who the future is going to be. But I do want to get back to today's game, man. Outside of Teddy Bridgewater, I want to talk about the first half mainly. Let's stick to the first half. And everything was bad. I mean, everything was bad. Teddy Bridgewater was bad. The defense was bad. The secondary was bad. The O-line was bad. Everything was bad. Do you guys give the Panthers a little bit of credit for fighting back and making a game out of it. Is there some credit to give today?
A little bit of credit. I mean, what their performance told me is they didn't quit on Matt Rule. I mean, which is, I guess, a good thing. But it seemed like it was a lack of preparation to me. They didn't come in prepared to play. That first
very good point.
Man, that first drive, I text you guys. I'm like, man, we look crisp. The very next play, very next play. I've never seen a screen pass that bad in my life before, ever. And it's just like football is a game of momentum. And when that play happened, it's just like everything just kind of went downhill. And it's just like the only thing that stopped that avalanche was halftime. And it was just
honestly,
like, thank God for halftime. And then we came out the second half with the same BS. And like, thank God for Dante Jackson. I mean, he wasn't really there today, but he had a big play.
You know,
Kaiser, what you got?
Last week I said Matt Rule is going to get outcoached, and that's what happened at the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
like you said, the players were unprepared. They were not disciplined. It's been a long time since we saw the Panthers that undisciplined. And one thing that bothered me about this game is that the old regime in the Cam and Ron era, if somebody messed up, then somebody was on the sidelines getting at them. Somebody was like, hey, you got to do – hey, there was a lot of accountability. I didn't see that today. Did you see anybody?
No, I didn't notice it, man. Not that I noticed. No.
Derek Brown has a bonehead penalty. We're about to get off the field. We're finally going to get Tom Brady
off the field.
And then you get a stupid late hit penalty, just a dumb late hit penalty. And then Tampa ends up scoring on that drive, right?
Right.
Who's him on the sidelines? I'm all over the guy.
It's funny you bring that up today, man, because there is a veteran on this defense that deserves some criticism today. His name is Shaq Thompson.
Yep.
Shaq Thompson is supposed to be that guy. At least this crew branded Shaq Thompson as the new leader on that defense. We didn't expect him to be Luke Kuechly. We didn't expect him to call out plays before they happened. We didn't expect him to be that caliber of a player. However, we did expect him to be the leader on the defense. To your point, Kaiser, I don't see that from him these first two games.
No.
That Derek Brown penalty was the perfect place, the perfect time for him to yank the rookie up by the jersey and say, you can't do that type of stuff here. This is not what we're about. And to that point, Shaq Thompson, only 3 tackles today. Tahir Whitehead, 6 tackles today. I sent out a tweet and I said, I miss linebackers who can actually tackle, because the linebackers, it was not a great day for them at all. I will give them a D- if we're giving out grades. And again, man, a lot of that is on Shaq Thompson. Some of that is on Phil Snow, but we got to place blame.
Hey, that's another thing. I don't think for the first 2 games, Phil Snow hasn't gotten enough heat for the Panthers defense being terrible. He is the defensive coordinator. The last season before Ron Rivera took over the play calling, we were pretty down on it. Pretty much every coordinator since Sean McDermott when the Panthers defense wasn't good. Phil Snow needs to get some of this work too. You know, that was a guy. That's Rule's guy.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
College ranked with you. And so far he's shown that he cannot handle NFL play calling. I don't know if he's exactly calling the plays or if the schemes are his, but they're just not working. And I understand that the Panthers don't have a lot of defensive talent. However, I think it's fair to say most NFL teams aren't stacked to the brim with defensive talent. And
you're always going to have a hole somewhere.
Right. And
absolutely.
Naming names off of our core defensive players, I'm not going to say those guys are trash. Dante Jackson he's a serviceable starting level NFL cornerback, I think.
He's a number 2 corner to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Listen, real quick. He had no business on Mike Evans today, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but listen, they quickly made that adjustment. Like, oh no, we can't have this today. And one more thing before I let you go back. One more thing, guys. To me, it is absolutely unacceptable that we get a guy off the street in Rasul Douglas, who's been the best guy in the secondary so far. But go ahead, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was gonna say I don't think the talent is bad. I just think some of the schemes are not working. There's just I gotta lay a lot of the blame on the coaching staff, and I know that the players have to execute. But I think defensively, the issue might be coaching. I think offensively, it might be a little bit of talent. Here's the thing: I'm not too mad at Joe Brady's play calling, honestly. It's funny. We are prophets on under construction. Last week we talked about how the Panthers don't run enough end arounds and sweeps.
Right.
What happened?
3 today. Curtis Samuel had 3 good results, but then there's other things I'm seeing. 1 catch from tight ends today. Manhurts had the only catch today. The only target to a tight end. That used to be kind of like the bread and butter of the Panthers passing game. Was that? And granted, we had Greg Olsen, but you still got to make the throws to the tight ends. If it wasn't for Robbie Anderson, who had 9 catches for 109 yards or 6 catches for 109 yards today, and then DJ Moore had some garbage time. I think he was 8 catches for 120 yards, but a lot of that came the game
when the game was over,
already out of hand. I think that, man, the Panthers just have so much work to do at the top. I think. I'd feel more comfortable if I felt that Matt Rule and his staff were more competent about coaching at the NFL level. And I know there's going to be an adjustment period, but when I look at guys like Pete Carroll and Harbaugh, who came into the league and had immediate success on bad teams, it's not like the Seahawks weren't that good before Pete Carroll came. It's the 49ers were a terrible team before Harbaugh took it over, and in very short time they turned those programs around and didn't look as incompetent as Rule is so far. Now, we're only 2 games in, so you take that with a grain of salt. So
yeah, right.
So for this year, how I'm gauging the Panthers, it's going to be kind of like Miami of last year. You remember early in the year, Miami was really, really, really historically bad.
Yeah. And
toward the end of the year, they got better. So I'm looking at each week who's making that improvement on the team, and I'm looking how Rule is coaching. I'm looking what adjustments is he making. I'm looking at the chess pieces, so to say. So I'm not thoroughly impressed with him yet. I just kind of really wasn't sold on him to begin with in the year. There's a reason why everybody's buying into him. I mean, we have to see. We got to wait and see.
I would say, if I didn't answer Jamal's question from earlier, the Panthers did make a really good halftime adjustment.
Yeah,
at least defensively.
Yeah.
However, when you're losing, it's easy to make those adjustments.
Yeah,
and that's why comebacks in the NFL are not.
Listen, especially when you did everything wrong, because it's a pretty simple concept. When you're doing everything wrong, you just do the opposite. But
let's tackle people. Let's not throw screens 10 yards over. Right. Let's not do those things. So, and as we see in the NFL, comebacks they're no longer rare, as we saw in the Cowboys.
Hey, shout out to Danny Thompson. Shout out to the Falcons. Hey, Danny.
But
what's up, Pilar?
They didn't quit. I guess that's really all you can ask of your guys. They didn't quit, and Matt Rule didn't let them quit. So, moral victory, I guess.
So guys, I got a question for you. So, watching today's game, who was some bright spots for you guys?
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, I was gonna say Robbie Anderson. Yeah.
200-yard games in a row.
There's one, I think, good problem we have, and not really a problem if we're really thinking about it, man. But just there's always gonna be this discussion of who's the number one receiver. And that's a good problem to have, as long as it doesn't become internal and, wide receivers have big egos most of the time. So as long as that stuff doesn't present itself, we do have a very good problems, so to speak, with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, man. Robbie Anderson, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but just coming from the Jets and his situation, I told the guys last week, that dude has something to prove, man.
Yeah.
And so far, so great from that guy. So I'll today, I know DJ Moore did get a lot of garbage time yardage, but he did have 8 for 120, man. So I'll give both of those guys props today, man.
So, in my opinion, we have 2 high-quality number 2s. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
Not a bad thing to have, man. Not a bad thing to have.
Considering we never had great wide receivers when Cam was here.
Right.
I mean, this would be Cam's best wide receiver core.
Hands down.
This is better than what he's working with in New England.
Right. Basically. I do want to. There's another bright spot for the day, man. This guy Mike Davis kind of came out of nowhere today.
Yeah.
Man. He had a really good second half, man. He actually had 8 for 74 yards, and that's coming out the backfield, and he had some pretty good plays, man. He showed some fire. He looks like a strong number 2 guy, at least judging from this game. At least that, we'll see how it goes in the future. But I like what I saw from him today as well.
And man, I to me on the defensive end, man, I got 2. Jeremy Chin again, man.
Yeah,
that kid is going when he figures everything out, he's gonna be good. He's already everywhere on that field. And then Brian Burns, man, he made his presence known in the second half, and he finally showed up to the season. Everybody knows Florida State guys are late, so just clap it up to Florida State guys.
Kazi, what did you think about that, man? What did you think about Brian Burns kind of coming out of nowhere in the second half, man?
So we were texting each other during the game, and that was one of the things that came up was, man, where's Brian Burns? And then suddenly, he started making plays. Now, granted, there was a little bit of a scheme change that Tampa Bay ran. And it kind of allowed him to get in the backfield. They started running the ball more. He was able to come off the edge and get some big hits from the backside. In the actual pass rush, though, what I saw, and this is just from the broadcast, we won't know for sure until we, if we look at the all 22 when the film is released, but his speed burst is not as valuable in the NFL as it was in college. So he needs more moves to get it on the outside. And it's also important to note that when we drafted him, Ron Rivera was still coach. We had a completely different scheme, and the idea with that was that he was playing hybrid outside linebacker and occasional 4-3 on passing downs only. Now he's 3 down rushing the passer, and I'm not sure if that's the best way to be using him. I mean, he's been washed out of the play by these huge left tackles, and I just don't know if he's big enough to be able to overcome that.
We need somebody dominant on the other side of him to kind of take that pressure off him so he can get that one-on-one, the one-on-one look. I mean, hopefully Brown and when Matos come back next week, it'll be a better look for the defense. But, I mean, Tampa's a good offensive line, man, and we second half outside the final 2 drives, I think we did a really good job.
I do too, man.
And that to me is a bright spot for the future.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think Brady killed it. Oh, the sports shows are going to act like he's back,
like he's had a Hall of Fame performance today.
If I was 6'5" and 250, I'd punch Mark Schlereth in the face, but I'm not.
Hey, Kaiser, listen.
I was like, dude, shut up. Yeah.
I was just about to say.
Look, he had to be betting on that damn game.
Listen.
It's just like he was just slurping Brady the whole game, man. It's just crazy.
Listen, I almost said I hope Mark Schlereth had a washcloth in the booth so he can clean his face off today, man. It was that kind of man love I never want. I don't want anybody. I don't want any man to love me look, ladies, get you a man that loves you the way Mark Schlereth loves Tom Brady. Because Jesus Christ, man, I almost had to watch the game on mute today. Look. When your team is getting smashed, it's more aggravating to listen to annoying announcers like Mark Schlereth, man. It was just like, dude, come on, man.
I don't think Brady looked all that great.
No.
Today. And I think our defense did. If we hadn't kept giving him the ball, different outcome.
Speaking of Tom Brady, man, 23 for 35, 217 today, 80.3 rating. I mean, that's pretty pedestrian, man. That is actually very pedestrian. Again, if you hold Tom Brady to those numbers, you think under normal circumstances in a team that's not rebuilding, you should win that game. But alas, here we are. We're not going to spend too much time talking about the Buccaneers of Tom Brady, but I do want to say this, though. If I'm the Buccaneers and I went out and I spent all that money on everything and I win the game in this fashion today, how comfortable do I feel about making the playoffs in a Super Bowl run if I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan?
Not confident. I mean, I understand it we're missing Chris Godwin today, but Gronk doesn't look like himself. The other tight end it's not gelling to me.
I mean, you already lost to the Saints, who will probably win the division, and you still got to deal with Green Bay, Seattle. You got to deal with all the typical NFC powerhouses, and I don't think we're about to find out a lot about the age-old debate. Was it Tom Brady or was it Belichick's system? I think tonight's game, Patriots Seahawks, is going to be very, very telling. Cam Newton has always historically struggled with the Seahawks, except for a few times. 3 wins in 11 years with 8 games against them. If he comes out and plays well against Seattle and they win, I don't really think there's a whole lot you could say about the debate. Tom Brady, the cliff is finally here, and that Belichick system is as good as advertised. So yeah, I still don't have a lot of faith in Tampa Bay. I wasn't expecting the Panthers to win. I did not have this pegged as a win. In fact, I thought that this might be a get right game for Tampa Bay, considering how they lost last week. They
got right.
Yeah, I felt like in the second half the Panthers were more competitive. I saw some good things. I'm still not excited about the Panthers as a whole, though. But that's just a frustrating loss.
Rodney, question for you, man. Are you surprised that we only scored 17 points today? Because the reason I asked that, we were all in agreement that we would score a lot of points this season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got to give the other team credit. You just do. They are a good defense. With that being said, is it still a shock we only scored 17 today?
Not when we get the ball up 4 times in the game. Plain and simple. I mean, that first drive we were going to score. We should have scored more points. But I mean, it's a bad game from Teddy. Quarterbacks cannot play like that. He looked like Kyle Allen last year.
Yeah.
Today. I mean, you're not going to score points with 3-4 turnovers. I'm sorry.
That brings up a good point. If this is as good as we are with Teddy Bridgewater, then why not?
What did we give out the contract for?
Yeah. And you spend all this money.
Look, I would rather play Kyle Allen $1 million if we're going to get this every week.
Exactly. I really think that Tepper and Rule went all in on Bridgewater, and it might come back to bite them.
You know what? I just want to say, man, it's a damn shame how right we are sometimes. But again, it's game 2, man. It's game 2.
Prove me wrong.
Prove me wrong. Every game the rest of the season. I would prefer that, honestly, than to go through, another 2-14 season. But we've done it before. 1-15, 2-14. Both of those terrible seasons ended up getting us Super Bowl appearances afterwards.
3 years, yeah.
So I can only hope that this is the same.
Oh man, it's been a tough day around here, man. Before we move on, there is one more thing I do want to kind of talk about with the Panthers. Looking ahead, yeah. If we're looking ahead. Are you guys' regular season wins predictions still the same, or do they change any after today's game?
I'm around four wins. I mean, 3. I mean, I mean, look, look. If we're gonna be this bad, just be this bad. Like, commit to it. Like, go for the number 1 pick. Like, try shit out. Like, I mean, I really didn't have this team winning more than 4 or 5 games, anyways. 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're on par with the prediction. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule, man. It is going to be ugly.
Yeah.
It is.
Not yet, Rodney. Not yet. Not yet. Let's save that. All right. Offensive and defensive MVPs, if any, today. Kaiser, who you got for offensive MVP?
Robbie Anderson on offense, although he had a
fumble.
Yeah. He lost that ball, and then he had the catch, which was originally ruled not a catch. Out, he fumbled that too; just went out of bounds. It was a catch. He got to clean that up, but he's probably been the only wide receiver we've had in a long time that could consistently get open.
Yeah,
always open.
Yeah,
so, he got a lot of targets today. Hopefully, he'd be my offensive MVP. Defensive, man, I mean. It's hard to say. It's because it's either feast or famine with these guys. Dante Jackson had the good. That was a great pick, but had a bad pass interference call. Just got generally roasted by Mike Evans every other play. I could say Brian Burns. He did apply some pressure in the second half, but the rest of the game, he did not.
Right.
A telling stat. Carolina Panthers, number 2 in the league in sacks. The lowest they were ever in sacks during the Ron Rivera era was number 6. No sacks the first 2 games. None. Not a single quarterback sack. So
against 2 statues.
Yeah, Rodney, who you got?
Offensive, I'm going to CMC, man. 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Helped change the game around in the second half when he was fed the ball. Defensive wise, man, I'm going with the guy you brought up earlier, Rasul Douglas.
Yeah.
He's a consistent piece. Our number 1 corner we got off the scrap heap.
Yeah. Defensive MVP, I'm going to go Douglas, and here's why. You didn't hear his name a lot.
Yep.
But if you're in the secondary, you don't want to hear your secondary guy's name a lot. So that's why I'm going with Rasul Douglas. I'm going with CMC because of the 2 touchdowns. It's simple, man. I hate sounding so plain and simple. When CMC gets the ball, we score. It's that simple, and it showed itself today, man. Real quickly, we got the San Diego Chargers next week. What's your predictions?
28-24 Carolina.
Well, since there's really no real home field advantage, I don't think playing on the road will matter that much. I think I'm going to peg that one as a loss. I'll say 23-20.
I'm going to be optimistic for once, and I have a feeling that that's going to backfire on me next week, but I am going to go Panthers 32, Chargers 28. So,
well,
go ahead.
Hold on. I do want to add a caveat. If Tyrod Taylor is playing, then I think we lose. If Justin Herbert plays,
we winning that game.
I think we might win.
We win. I agree.
We get at least 1 or 2 picks.
And before we transition to NBA and bubble talk, can I just say I am so glad we didn't draft Justin Herbert, because I would have had a meltdown if we would have did that. But anyway, so guys, since the last episode of Under Construction, there's been some explosive NBA games and some choking going on and some I don't know. I don't even know what to call it, man. There's a culture that may just be shifting in the NBA. The Los Angeles Clippers have blown a 3-1 lead to the upstart Denver Nuggets. Guys, whose fault? Who is at fault for the LA Clippers blowing a 3-1 lead?
Kawhi
Leonard. Go ahead. I want to hear more.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard. He was supposed to have like the LeBron effect. Although I don't think they would have won the Raptors wouldn't have won the championship last season without him. I think they would have got stopped in the Eastern Conference Finals. They might have beaten the Warriors. The Warriors were injured, but there's no doubt they won that championship because of Kawhi. But people mistakenly believe that meant that he could go to another team and they could win the championship there. You're going to go to the West. First of all, the Western Conference is stacked. And the fact that they were able to win last year, just to me, just shows what being in the Eastern Conference can do for you. You come to the West, everybody's dangerous. Everybody.
Right. Everybody.
Portland was dangerous. The Nuggets, the Jazz, any one of those teams could have knocked the Clippers off. And the Lakers got to be careful, too, against the Denver Nuggets. So I feel like if you're Kawhi Leonard, you got to do better than the way he played in Game 6 and Game 7. You got to. You got to take the game over. You're one of the best one of the best two-way players of our generation. You're supposedly like the only guy that can stop LeBron James. You got to do better. That's on you, dude. That's your team. You're supposedly the superstar. You cannot blow a 3-1 lead like that. Now, having said that, although the basketball in the bubble had gotten a lot better since the beginning in the first round, not having real home court is starting to show its ugly head. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but the NBA has finally achieved parity. However,
somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat. They can't sustain it through next season when we go back to having fans and playing in home arenas and such. So teams like Denver and Miami are able to take advantage of the fact that even though they were worse teams on the road, that doesn't matter anymore. So I think that had a lot to do with the Nuggets Clippers series. I think if Denver actually had to go to LA, they wouldn't have won. Having said that, you're up 3-1 and you got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You got to win.
Got to get it done. Rodney, what you got?
It's the players, man. Like, just kind of hearing basically how they were acting, like they were already crowned and stuff like that. You can be this talented on paper, but you got to get out there and show it. Kudos to that Denver team, man. It's like we're not getting enough credit. They were part of the Clippers not moving along, and to piggyback on Kaiser, what he was saying about Kawhi. If you're going to be the leader, you need to be the leader on the court, off the court, and vocally. Like like your teammates need to hear you. Like I understand you're not a vocal leader, but if you want to be like LeBron and assume that role, you got to talk a little more, brother. And then Doc Rivers, man. I don't know, man. I don't give him too much of. It's the players got to perform. And
Doc Rivers ain't out there shooting 2 for 14.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's not shooting 2 for 14. He's not talking like Paul George talking trash to Dame Lillard. He's not shooting on the edge of the backboard. He's putting them putting the team in the position to win. They had an incredibly deep team, and the team did not perform. I mean, it's not his fault.
All right, so I'm going to slightly disagree with you guys, and I do mean slightly, not much, because I do feel like a lot of the blame goes to Doc Rivers because some of those issues with Paul George and Patrick Beverley and all these guys that were proclaiming – I put it to you like this. I think the Clippers, to Rodney's point, crowned themselves before they actually did anything. So I do put the onus on the courts to be able to tell those guys, no, you guys haven't did anything yet. We have not achieved anything yet. We have not even reached a conference finals in 60-something years or whatever it is. So how dare you guys, especially you, Paul George, want to come on this team and crown yourselves before you've actually achieved anything. Now, there is one thing that separates the Denver Nuggets from the LA Clippers, and this is the key phrase of this, is chemistry. Yeah. The LA Clippers do not have any chemistry. Their wins came strictly off talent, and talent is not enough to win games in the NBA. Now, a lot of that blame goes to Kawhi Leonard, and I will tell you why. Kawhi Leonard, let's just say, for lack of a better term, man, he's a bit of an enigma when it comes to his personality and off-court stuff. He like
I'm a
Right.
fun guy.
There's a lot of breaks he likes to take during the regular season. There's a lot of times where he just doesn't play because he just doesn't feel like it. There's a lot of time where he takes games off, and I really strongly feel that has strongly affected the chemistry between him and the Clippers, and mainly between him and Paul George. When you have new pieces, when you trade 97 first-round picks for one guy, you got to build with that one guy. Regular season matters. Casual fans do not believe that, but this is all the more proof that regular season NBA games matter, because I believe if the Clippers had that if they were building that cohesion during the regular season, they're not in this position right now, and a lot of that has to go to Doc Rivers, man. Your thoughts on that, guys?
I mean, I can't. It's your opinion. I can't argue with it.
No, not the argument.
Kawhi Leonard has never been a leader. Look at the time in San Antonio. That was not his team. That team belonged to Tony Parker, Manu, and Duncan. And then when they all left and LaMarcus Aldridge comes, there's no leader. That's why that didn't work out. That's why they were so eager to trade him, was because there was no leader in the locker room. So he goes to Toronto, a team that he doesn't even want to be at.
Be on, right.
They won a championship, but that wasn't even his team. That team,
Kyle Lowry's
team. So he leaves, and then he goes to LA, and I got the idea that he's not the leader there either. And Paul George is not really that leader. Paul George, and I hate to say this about Paul George because I think he's a great NBA player, but he's a coattail rider. He's going to go to wherever. That's why he was in OKC. That's why, that was his team in Indiana. He was like, no, I want to go play with somebody else and win a championship with them. So when he heard Kawhi Leonard was going to LA, I'm going to LA too. So you don't got anyone in the locker room that's a leader. Whereas if you look at Denver, I think they have any number of leaders in their locker room. You got a lot. I mean, you could just tell by the way the Nuggets pulled together, the way that they were during timeouts, the way you could. It was so obvious to see. Just from the way that they played, that they had people in the locker room that knew their roles and knew who to look up to. I don't think there was any of that in LA. And about Doc Rivers, I understand when you've got players with a lot of personality, like a Pat Bev. I can completely understand that sometimes you got to let them be who they
are. Right.
Yeah. Doc Rivers
got to be able to rein them in, though.
Before, I think that, when you got guys that are outspoken like that, then it's okay to let them do the thing. The problem is that you got to produce as well. Pat Beverly, he wasn't producing an offensive end, and supposedly he's like the defensive guy, and he was getting roasted by Jamal Murray. I mean, it just.
Kaiser, let me speak to that point.
Yeah.
Let me speak to that point, man. I think outside of Kawhi Leonard, that's what that team is. It's a bunch of guys who haven't really achieved a lot that elevate themselves more than what they are.
Yeah.
Paul George is a good player. Don't get me wrong. Do not get it twisted. I hope people are making myself clear on that. But Paul George, you have not done anything yet as far as what you think you are. Paul George is not Kawhi Leonard. And sometimes I kind of believe he wants to be that, but he's not that. And the Clippers have that problem. They're worried. They're celebrating and hooting and hollering about beating about the Blazers getting eliminated. But what have you guys done?
Let me just tell you something funny, man. I was looking at a quote. One of the Morris twins was told Paul Millsap, "Get ready to take your ass home." After Game 5, during Game 5, and it's just like, what have you done in the NBA to
warrant that?
To warrant that, like to me, there's only two people on that Clippers roster who should be able to talk like that: Doc Rivers and Kawhi Leonard. And
Absolutely.
one of them is mute, and he's not going to talk.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, man. There is a reason why the damn server almost broke on Twitter. because of when they lost. They're not the first team to blow a 3-1 lead, but I have never, ever seen that kind of fire go towards a team like that. And there's a reason for that. And they kind of bought everything on themselves.
It did, but to be fair, I think a lot of people were also hard on the Clippers because there was this expectation that they could beat the Charlotte Lakers. I mean LA Lakers. Congratulations to them on winning their first NBA championship since Kobe left, because they're gonna win.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah.
The rest want them to win.
Hey,
that Nuggets game.
I'll say this about that: the calls, they weren't allowing Nurkic to play the way that he was playing
before
in the Clipper series. I don't think he was able to be more physical in that series. I don't think that that's going to work. The Lakers are a bigger team, for one, and they got LeBron James. LeBron James is always going to, although there's like, LeBron James don't get calls. No, he gets calls. He gets those calls. So he's going to get those calls. We know Anthony Davis is going to get those calls. And so as a result, that's just something the Nuggets are going to have to overcome in the series against the Lakers. And they're not going to overcome it. The Lakers are going to go to the NBA Finals. But I think that's part of the reason why there was so much vitriol against the Clippers, because there was this expectation that finally they're going to knock off LeBron, and now I don't have a chance to do it. So, yeah.
Speaking, at first I want to talk about the Celtics and the Toronto Raptors. I want to tell you guys what I kind of feel about that series. Speaking of, kind of elevating yourselves before you actually get the job done. The Celtics blew 2 games, 2 leads in the first 2 games. And those are 2 games that they easily could have won. Now, for that reason, when they went down 0-2, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, this series is far from over. I just don't believe this series is over by any stretch of the imagination. The Celtics come out and they pretty much handled business, last night, even though they almost blew another lead last night. However, they still got the W. What are your thoughts on the Celtics and the Heat, man? What do y'all think about that series?
With the Celtics having their full complement of players, Gordon Hayward, he's a threat. I
think him coming back really helps, man. Yeah,
he's a legit threat. So they can play their small 5-ball, their 5 guard forward lineup with Kemba, Marcus, him, and Tatum and Brown, and they can get out and transition and run. Boston without him is a thin team. They can build a lead up, but Brad Wanamaker and Grant Williams ain't taking you there off the bench. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point you bring up, man, because if there is a concern, I do think it is depth with the Celtics. And I think that kind of has been showing itself at least the first 2 games, but I totally agree. Kaiser, what you got?
The Celtics are a better team, especially with Gordon Hayward back. And that's why we've seen them get out to these big leads.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason. And we've seen this in the NBA of the last few years. Big leads don't really mean a whole lot.
Absolutely not.
Teams come back all the time. But essentially, if you are dependent on Goran Dragic to give you 28 points a night to win, that's not sustainable. And we saw 27 points game or 26 points game 1, 29 points game 2.
Yeah.
7 points game 3, they lose. That's what's going to happen. That's an easy adjustment to make if you're Brad Stevens. Goran Dragic is roasting us. Let's make an adjustment. Bam, you win the game, because now all you have to worry about is Jimmy Butler, who's going to get his regardless. Yeah, the Celtics, now they're in a 2-1 hole. I think if they tie it up, then they'll win the series. If they go down
3-1,
I think it's over. But if they make it 2-2, then I think they'll go on and win the series, probably in 7 games. But it would be great. However, wouldn't it be something to see Kemba Walker versus LeBron James in the NBA Finals? Considering Kemba Walker, throughout his whole career, LeBron James has been like the one guy that
the dark shadow.
The only win he's ever gotten off LeBron in his career came after he leaves Charlotte and goes to the Celtics.
And actually, Kaza, Kemba Walker wasn't even playing the game that the Hornets won. It wasn't even playing the game. So he has never beat LeBron James. look, man, I don't have a strong rooting interest for either of these teams. I do want Kemba Walker to be well, and I guess just for historical purpose, I'd like to see the Lakers and Celtics be in the finals. And look, it's like choosing the lesser of two evils for me because I hate both of those fan bases. But if we get there, I definitely want Kemba Walker to try to get his chip, man.
Same.
Lakers versus Celtics. I mean, there's historical context there.
Yeah, right.
The NBA would eat it up. So
look, I like chaos. Denver versus Miami.
I mean, look, listen. I wouldn't be mad. I'm definitely not putting my money on those two teams being there, but I definitely wouldn't be mad. I think the NBA needs something like that, honestly, man.
No. Adam Silver would die.
That's why I would love it. For that reason. That's why I would love it. Not literally, but you know what I mean. So real quickly, man, time is running out. I do want to talk about the Lakers and the Nuggets just a tad bit. I want to ask a simple question. Do the Nuggets have a chance, y'all?
No.
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 I want to say yes because their tenacity, they're not going to give up. They're down 3-1 against a more talented team, and they came back and won that. But
LeBron is different.
LeBron's different. Plus, not just LeBron, but, man, Anthony Davis. Man, fucking Dwight Howard. They can't even stop Dwight Howard.
I am glad you brought Dwight Howard up because I want to speak to the Charlotte fan base. There's like maybe 5 of y'all who keep saying this. Why didn't the Hornets keep Dwight Howard? Let me explain this. Dwight Howard is exactly where he needs to be. He is coming off the bench as a utility guy who is not asked to carry a team. Hornets fans, please stop. It's not like we had deep playoff runs with Dwight Howard. We didn't even make the damn playoffs. So please shut up about Dwight Howard. Congrats to the guy, but he's right where he needs to be. We're right where we need to be. I don't want to hear any more Dwight Howard, Charlotte Hornets talk. Let this be the last time.
It was fun while he was here, but it didn't accomplish anything, and it ended up being inconsequential. I'll say I'd like to see him get a chip, even if it's in this capacity. I think his career is super underrated. I saw this recent poll that came out where players are voting their top 100. Dwight Howard didn't even make it. Either that or he might have been like number 72, where Tracy McGrady was in the top 50. And I loved T-Mac, but if you look at the two careers,
yeah, that's disrespectful, man. Yeah,
it was like literally the best big man in the league for like a 5-year straight span, 8 All-Star games, 8 All NBA teams, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 3 times in a row. The guy was good.
Beat LeBron in the playoffs, went to the finals.
Right. That's right. Right. The Orlando Magic to the finals. So if he gets a chip this year, good on him. But no, keeping him as a Hornet, no.
There's one thing that is I want to say this, man. I am like really surprised at Rajon Rondo. That dude looks like he has a special fire in his eye, man. Like this dude is hitting 3-pointers. Rajon Rondo has hit more 3-pointers in these playoffs than I have ever seen over his entire career, man. Yeah. It's so funny how when you put certain players in championship situations, it's so funny how like things change with the player. Are y'all guys seeing the same thing with Rajon Rondo? Am I tripping or what, man? Because this guy looks really good, man.
Yeah, I noticed it in last night's game. He was just, I mean, he's making all the right plays.
Yeah.
And we thought he was washed up. I guess tales of his demise were greatly exaggerated. And like you said, he's this close to getting another championship. He's actually the kind of guy you need when it comes to this, a late championship run like this. If you're LeBron James, you do well with a guy like Rondo. Although, we didn't talk about the report that came out that he wanted Kemba Walker.
Yeah,
they were heavy, and I think that's kind of interesting that Kemba Walker chose to go to Boston instead of going to play with LeBron, which would have had him a championship.
I mean, playing with LeBron, man, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Like,
but is it because LeBron is the guy that has all the pressure?
Let me tell you something wrong. Let me tell you something, man. With LeBron friends, if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
You traded.
And then if y'all win a championship, it was all because of LeBron.
Yeah, well, you got a point there.
Look. LeBron made a game-saving block. Kyrie hit an extra shot that didn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
you got a point, man. All right, guys. We have hit the hour. We've almost hit the hour-long mark, man. Guys, any shout outs or shout ats?
Man, November 3rd is coming along. Go vote. We hit the 200,000 mark with Corona deaths. Stay vigilant, man. I know people is not acting like it's a pandemic. People are still dying.
It's still there, yeah.
People are still dying. And
hence why we're still doing Zoom videos, guys. We actually kind of care about this stuff. So
and then I hear people saying pre-existing conditions or whatever. Pre-existing conditions doesn't mean that you're gonna die within the next 10 days. Like pre-existing conditions is like, hey, I'm a diabetic. Hey, I might have lived an extra 30 years, but this coronavirus killed me. Like,
right.
just remain vigilant out here, man. It's the second wave is coming. It's getting cold.
Kaza, what you got?
Shout to. So I noticed since we started doing these StreamYard streams, we get a lot of fan interaction in real time with the stream. I think that's awesome. I hope we can find a way to do that, continue that when we get back in the studio. So I want to thank our fans who have stuck with us through this transition.
Absolutely, man. Your support means everything.
And that's why we continue to do it. If everyone just said, well, I'm just going to stop listening to instruction now, then we probably wouldn't do it, or at least with as much vigor as we normally do. So thank you to you guys for.
And thank you to the guys in the chat too, man. We got to shout them out too, man. Thank y'all for showing up today.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell your friends, come join in on Construction Sunday streams.
All right, guys. I got one shout out today, man. I want to shout out my brother, my best friend in the world, man, Sean Johnson, who got married yesterday.
Congrats.
Absolutely beautiful ceremony, man. They gave me a reason to put on a tuxedo, which was a big hit. I was pretty G'd up yesterday, man. I had a little cane going on. Pictures forthcoming. You'll see them. Anywho, man, shout out to my brother Sean, man. Shout out to all of our friends who came. Shout out to his family. Shout out to his lovely bride, Candace, and her family, man. Beautiful time, beautiful weather, beautiful wedding. It was just a great time yesterday, man. So shout out to my boy, man. With that being said, guys,
real quick, I got a real quick story, funny story. I got friended on Facebook once by somebody you know this person's mom. I'm not gonna say their name. I haven't talked to them since this, but they had just come from a wedding. I think it was a family member, and y'all know me on Facebook. Anybody knows me on Facebook? I it's just all jokes, right? Right? So they made a post that said, "Marriage is not a word; it's a sentence." And I replied, "You mean a life sentence?" And they just friended me, and I ain't talked to him since.
Oh man!
Text me who that was when we get off of here, guys. Fans, Charlotte. Thank y'all once again for tuning in, man. We'll see y'all next week, man. Peace, y'all.
Peace out.